Welcome back to another episode of Drag to America. I'm your host, Ty Worldwide, and today I'll be discussing Juneteenth and how in 2021 it is now a federal holiday. Let's get straight to it. Why is it that most times throughout history, Black people's struggles are described as not important to some? At times, it seems like certain events that took place relating to Blacks throughout history, even the triumphs, are undermined. I always wondered why Columbus Day was a holiday and Juneteenth wasn't recognized at all. Amazingly, several people never heard of Juneteenth until now. Juneteenth was a moment in history when enslaved Blacks were finally freed from their democratic slave owners. In 1865, Galveston, Texas will be changed forever. On June 19, 1865, some enslaved Blacks blew horns, played tambourines, some danced, all praised God. It was good that the slaves in Galveston, Texas were freed, yet it was a tragedy. They had no idea what to do with their newfound liberties. Numerous freed men and women were completely flustered with being free. Some felt stuck with no possessions, no education, and no funds to start a new life, which horrified many. Countless freed slaves were discouraged and actually hated liberty. These Black men and women wanted to stay with their owners. They were accustomed to the oppressive misfortunes their racist democratic slave owners threw at them daily. These evil racists withheld the news from their enslaved workers in order to keep power. Slaves that stayed on the plantation felt they had the best deal in town. It's hurtful to know these certain Blacks thought being a servant forever, living in brutal quarters, was all they could accomplish in life. Many felt that securities like food, shelter, along with a cruel schedule of free hard labor was all they were worth. Many of our melanin ancestors were beaten, whipped, raped, and all worked for bigots that didn't appreciate anything about them, no benefits, and no enjoyment whatsoever. The only joy they had was praising God on Sunday. Slave owners allowed this because they made images of Jesus Christ in the image of a white Caucasian. I still wonder who drew those pictures of Jesus Christ. Sadly, many of these former enslaved Blacks were unable to gain employment. Some were arrested for idiotic reasons. Many were defeated. Even some made deals to work for their master for small wages as a sharecropper. There were several freed Blacks that made it out. This group of fighters made something out of nothing. Reparations for slavery should have been provided to newly freed Blacks, and unfortunately, it wasn't taken serious. Minister Garrison Frazier and the other 19 prominent Black leaders generated the idea. General William T. Sherman heard their plea and issued an order in South Carolina in January 1865. The order written petitioned for each former slave family to have 40 acres and a mule. This radical proposal rattled racist Democrats. Several radical Republicans, including Charles Sumner, were in unison in Congress, passing laws requiring Confederates to pay out and even seize their property to provide freed slaves 40 acres and a mule. The Republicans really pushed for reparations for each newly freed slave family to receive this incentive. In 1866, President Andrew Johnson rejected this idea by not signing the order. This made Republicans more radical than ever. They wanted to help Blacks prosper even more. All Americans should want to learn about this historical event. I was fortunate enough to be taught Juneteenth by my mother and even attended events. However, should this day be a celebration? The freedom of our ancestors is great, yet most of them stayed in bondage by staying on the plantations they were freed from. I developed a deeper understanding researching. I became more aware of the circumstances slaves endured. Blacks have endured many battles and overcame. The Emancipation Proclamation was already developed years prior to this particular time. For some reason, this group in Texas and a couple other places didn't receive the news in a timely manner. Hungry, greedy slave masters didn't want to lose all their power, free labor, and control. Withholding vital info from groups of enslaved Blacks is stunning. I hope withholding vital news doesn't make its way into this generation. Or has it? Nonetheless, several Black communities already made Juneteenth an annual tradition for many years now. I wonder what's the big deal now? Yes, we should recognize and honor our enslaved ancestors for being freed from a wicked democratic slave system. All the events in history freeing enslaved Africans should be recognized. Why is the Emancipation Proclamation not acknowledged as a holiday? The 13th Amendment also has a lot to do with releasing enslaved Blacks. Several urbanized cities throughout the years have took it upon themselves to honor Juneteenth in their own soulful way. Is all the pandering really necessary? Thank you to those who are taking the time to learn Black history, which is American history that's forgotten. When it comes to issues Black people face, other ethnicities should be themselves. They don't need to wear a dashiki, a afro, or African garments to prove anything. It's cool for everyone to have an understanding and learn what happened in our history so we can all move forward. Being great under God should be the ultimate goal. It's real interesting how all of a sudden, Juneteenth has been politicized. Is this really the day to party and fire up the grill? It seems like symbolic gestures are always used to appease numerous Blacks. When I was a youngster, I went to Juneteenth parades, had a good time, even did a talent show. It was all good until I researched and realized what actually happened. The news they were freed lasted a hot minute. Reality set in for them. They were freed, yet vulnerable, and the majority of Blacks didn't feel free, never felt free. Their mindset was full of their masters' ideologies. When you think of the newly freed, you think of hope and better times. Nonetheless, we never hear about the aftermath of the freed Africans though. These individuals were anxious, scared, and realized there was no security. They had to make their own way. Emotion set in, which filled them with lots of confusion and frustration. Many freed men and freed women were lost, confused, more shaken than ever being free. These wicked slave owners split up the enslaved Black families, stripping them of all kinship. No welcome mat, no country for them to return to, nowhere to go or nowhere to turn. I feel it should be a day of remembrance through prayer and reflection, a day to stay engaged and learn what happened then so it doesn't repeat itself again. Now Juneteenth seems like a commercialized sensation. I mean, don't get me wrong, some things do call for a good cookout, seeing the grown folks having that infamous red cup, hearing those old school songs and all. But is there going to be Juneteenth sales now? Is Juneteenth about dollars and cents? To me, it seemed more sentimental when several Blacks and others in the communities acknowledged Juneteenth in their own way. Juneteenth was an event in American history that we should never forget, and thank God our ancestors passed the story down throughout time. Is Juneteenth now a day to turn up and down? Now that Juneteenth is an official holiday, will the Black communities around the country receive money to build up their communities? Will this Juneteenth holiday end the Black on Black hate? Or is Juneteenth just a holiday for some to barbecue every part of the pig? Is that appropriate? Many Blacks and other individuals may say, at least it's a holiday, or I'm happy it's a day off from work, or well, at least this administration is acknowledging Black people. Some are still wondering what happened to 40 acres and a mule freed Blacks were promised. That 40 acres would have been the ultimate come up for Blacks. It meant Black wealth and ownership. Why are many Blacks okay with diluted progress? The 40 acres and a mule fake promises should have taught all Blacks to get up, get out, and get something. Nonetheless, isn't it stereotypical that numerous people think the only way to appease Blacks is to give them the day off to have a barbecue? Since the Republicans freed all the slaves, do the Republicans get a thank you? I ask the question because I'm still learning and researching through God's grace to understand our history. What I do know is that we should remember all our ancestors, not just the ones in Galveston, Texas. There are major issues in the Black community that should be tackled. My mother continues to tell me the buck dancing never ends. My mother says some of these jokers keep doing the George Jefferson dance on the Distraction Plantation. No one should be doing any dance yet until we see real change in Black communities. It's the Black community's job to make sure we keep Juneteenth authentic. It's a shame it seems like all the authenticity of Juneteenth went out the window now that it's publicized. Now we're here on the independence of America, the 4th of July, which many from all backgrounds celebrate. Yet, I want to know which holiday do Blacks celebrate now? There's numerous Black veterans and Black soldiers who fought way back when for this country alongside the white soldiers of this country. It's interesting how they put their differences aside for one cause. Since several people say 4th of July is the white man's holiday, how do we pay homage to our Black war heroes who shed blood for this nation? Are Blacks supposed to celebrate both? Or is it fair to say everyone can celebrate whatever they want? Because this is the land of the free, right? I'm curious because some news that I watched says there's white supremacy everywhere. Therefore, I don't understand why some Blacks want to participate in a holiday white men discovered. It's all confusing. I've seen many Blacks use the dollar store plates with the flag on it. Yet, some Blacks don't like the flag at all. Many people, even several Blacks, didn't have a clue what Juneteenth even was until now. That may be a result of the lacking education system that overlooked particular parts in history. I wonder if Juneteenth will be honored respectfully and taken seriously. Or will it be recognized as another day off? Time will tell. Tune in for another episode of Drag To Amerikkka. Everyone, wash your hands a million times. Spray Lysol everywhere. I'm Ty Worldwide. Take care. God bless.